What is the most depressing thing your students have told you? Story 1. I've had a lot, but one morning 2 students came in early to my room and asked if they could use my student computer. I said sure, and figured that they just needed to finish a project and knew I always got to school early. Nope. Turns out their best friend was murdered 2 days before because he wouldn't give his money he earned to someone trying to rob him. His family needed the money to not be homeless, so he died trying to look out for his family, and for like $80 or something. My students were creating flyers and a GoFundMe so they could try to help the parents not be homeless and to afford a funeral. To make matters worse, the kid was murdered on a Saturday. He was left to bleed out and die, to be found the next morning. The fucking murderer came to my school on Monday as if nothing had happened. Cops pulled him out of the class in the middle of the day once they had figured out it was him. Story 2. One of my students who was always in a good mood came into the class looking very down. She was not acting her usual self. I had to get onto her several times for being on her phone, again, very unlike her. She asked if she could speak to me in the hallway. Kid, I'm sorry for being in such a bad mood today. Can I tell you why? Me, of course. Kid proceeds to take her cardigan off, she had a tank top on underneath, and showed me welts that she had gotten the night before from her mother beating her with an electric cord. She says, "My mother beat me for no reason last night and I don't know what to do." Sadly, it was not the first time I had to report. Edit, I didn't expect this comment to blow up. Lots of questions, but long story short, there was a happy ending. She got to move with her father, much better situation, who lived about an hour and a half away. She was able to finish the school year with us, her dad would drive her that long distance every morning. And the next school year, she started at her new school. The abuse had been going on for a while. She was an only child. I taught high school freshmen, so she was 14. The day after she told me, she came to my classroom during my conference period and hugged me for a very long time. Story 3. I ran holiday science workshops, filled with brainy kids as you'd expect. There was an 11-year-old girl who was brilliant at everything. The content was clearly beneath her. Very quiet, respectful, well-liked by the other kids. Her parents were moving soon because she received scholarships to a prestigious school. Whenever her dad came to pick her up, he was obviously proud, telling me about all her achievements, how she was in advanced classes, just won all these sports awards too, etc. Showed videos and photos of her winning all these soccer games. They enrolled her younger brother in similar sessions. He gave it a go in the first few but really struggled, always the last to finish, and felt his work didn't look as good as the others. Looked embarrassed to ask for help. He screamed at his sister when she tried to fix his circuit. Eventually, he just began acting out, putting off the work, challenging me to get a laugh out of the other kids, messing around. After a disastrous month, he stopped trying altogether. He just came in one afternoon and sat there, not doing anything. I tried to engage him in the activity and said if he didn't like what the other kids are doing, we could pick anything else he wanted to do. He said something like, "What's the point? My parents will never love me as much as they love my sister." Story 4. My mother was a teacher for nearly 30 years. She spent the last 10 years at a middle school that was pretty hard up in the Tulsa public school system. She had a very good student who came to school every day in the same clothing. We can call her Jay. The clothing was always washed, but even so, around halfway through the year, his clothing was becoming tattered and stained. The other students began to notice and make comments. The school tried to give her clothing, but she refused. She would not accept a handout. A few teachers came up with a plan for the school to put on a contest where the winner was given some new, very nice, school clothing. This contest was set up for Jay to win. This way he could have new clothing and not feel as though he was given anything. Jay won the contest. She accepted the new clothing gladly. The next day she was still wearing his old clothes. My mom asked him why he was not wearing the new clothing. "Those are my trophies. I have them hanging on my wall." Rips my heart right out of my chest. Story 5. I'm not a teacher, but my third grade teacher was having a really bad day with many kids behaving badly. She had us line up and go to her desk one by one and tell her, quietly, if there was something upsetting us that day. I don't know what the other kids told her, but I told her that my mom had shouted at me that morning, "No one will ever love you." Knowing my classmates and the area we were living in, I'm sure she heard some sad stuff. She went on stress leave shortly thereafter. Edit, thank you for the kind comments. Yes, life got much better for me as an adult. I'm happily married now with 3 kids who get to worry about regular kid problems instead of dealing with verbal and physical abuse at home like I did, and my mom did, and probably her parents did. Story 6. Not a teacher, but overheard from another student. I used to have a history teacher that I grew fairly close with. Not in a creepy way, just as a fatherly figure, in a way. My friend was even closer with him, and he even knew about her less-than-ideal life at home. The extent of his and my knowledge was that her parents often fought and threatened to kick her out, but that was all. One day, we hung around after class to chat with him, and the conversation turned to my friend telling us about her father physically abusing her. She showed us her bruises, and we found out that it had been going on for almost an entire year, and she hadn't told anyone. It got so bad that she ended up in the hospital just a few nights prior. When our teacher asked her why she had kept quiet about it for so long when she could have been killed, she shrugged and said, "I didn't think it would matter to anyone." She truly believed that if she had died at the hands of her father, no one would have cared. I knew she struggled with her self-worth and feeling loved, but I never realized it was so bad that she thought we would be indifferent if she died. That shit broke my fucking heart. Story 7. Not a teacher, but son of a teacher. So my stepmom recently started teaching pre-K at a school nearby. It's near a military base, so it's primarily military families, but also kind of a city school, so there's a lot of kids from less than savory homes. Anyways, I was asking my mom about how her second year as a teacher was going, and she sighed and looked at me completely drained. She unloaded, the school year just started and my mom was nearly in tears about these things. These 2 blonde twins in her class are from a less than savory home, and they're awful, they're constantly swearing, will outright attack my mom, they aren't potty trained and they're never clean. Turns out these 2 little girls are the kids of a drug dealer in the city. They've called my mother a whore to her face numerous times. A boy from a foster home, when they were introducing themselves, said he lived with Macy and David, and my mom asked why he called his parents by their names and he said, "Macy and David aren't my parents." This was how my mom learned he was in foster care. A kid from my mom's first year as a teacher, now in kindergarten, comes to my mom's room every single morning. He doesn't have a good home life, he lives with his dad, who is military, and his parents are divorced. "Can you be my mommy?" he has asked her every day since halfway through last year. Apparently, the divorce was messy and the kid's mom left and never came back. And she unloaded these on me, thinking I was in for some light-hearted pre-K kid stories. I'm instead treated to this. My mom is very passionate about her job, thank God, and she does her best for these kids. Her first year, she managed to save a kid's finger after it was nearly ripped off. So I hope she works her magic on this group as well.